talk a lot about crowdsourcing, human computation, and my own approach that I call comment. So first, hi, if you don't know me, my name is Steuerer. That's a picture of me. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my handle is @MatthiasStewart. You can also email me at steuerm1@tcnj.edu. Any questions? All right. So I'm going to talk a lot about human computation and crowdsourcing today, but like, what's that? You probably might have heard it like in passing. Definitely not human computation because that's like a newer term, but you might have heard of crowdsourcing, but we're going to talk about both. So human computation is something that was made by someone called Louis von Ahn, who's a professor at Carnegie Mellon University, and he also graduated with his PhD from there. And it was his doctoral thesis that has pretty much introduced a completely new field to computer science altogether. And he defines it as a paradigm for utilizing human processing power to solve problems that computers cannot yet solve. And the whole reasoning behind that idea is that humans are still good at solving specific types of problems that computers are not, and a lot of people think there are problems that computers will never really be able to solve because of lack of creativity and actual reasoning behind the computer system. And crowdsourcing is the act of taking a job that one human actually has and you replace them with large amounts of people doing the same job but doing small parts of it. This is also talked about a lot in politics. It's happening a lot with a lot of jobs in the United States. It's crowdsourced to other countries. So you might have heard of outsourcing. Outsourcing is you actually go to another person in another country and you find that person to do a job for cheaper money. Crowdsourcing is you find people at a lot of different locations to do that job for less money and largely for altruistic purposes. So the big idea that we're going to be talking about here today is that we're combining people and machines together to solve problems that neither of them could do on their own. And when you talk about that kind of stuff, there's a whole different world of possibilities that opens up. So we have the benefits of both. So humans are still superior in a lot of skills like reasoning, empathy, and understanding direction and concepts. You can tell a computer what it is, you can tell it to memorize it, but as it stands, a computer doesn't really understand, like it doesn't have an understanding like a consciousness. But a computer is still better at doing things like equations, data mining, and solving problems with algorithms. So it'll solve a problem if you give it the right parameters and you tell it exactly how to do it. And it's very fast and usually better than a human can do it. So what kind of problems can we solve with this type of approach when we combine humans and computers together? Well, you can currently digitize books and create a machine learning data set. You can solve puzzles for science, and you can translate the internet, and we're going to talk about each one. So right now, Louis von Ahn is the CEO of a company called Duolingo, and the whole purpose of the company is to translate the entire internet from every major language into another major language, thereby eliminating language barriers online and creating a completely semantic net. So the way they do that is that you sign up for an account on the site. You say what language you want to learn and it makes it into a game. It gives you all these exercises where you translate from the language that you know fluently into the language that you are trying to learn. And after a while, what's going to happen is they're going to start presenting actual untranslated material from the internet that you will translate for them. You don't know that it's untranslated content, but the system knows. So after you prove yourself that you're intermediate or starting to get to expert level on certain exercises that they have built in, they will actually give you things to translate. And the funny thing is, in his TED Talk about Duolingo, is that they actually paid a translator who is fluent in both languages to translate from Spanish into English. And they took the results that they got from that same sentence that they paid a translator to translate for 20 cents a word, and the results were almost identical. So they did it for free, and that entire document was translated between the two languages and available to more people. It would take millions of dollars to pay translators to translate from one language into another, like hundreds of millions of dollars for one language. So they're doing it for free, and people are also learning the language because, you know, you probably thought about one language, I really want to learn this. So people have motivation to do that as well. So you want to have a big impact, you have a lot of people. This is a little word map of the popular terms in human computation so far. So human computation, collective intelligence is also another term often referred to it. Crowdsourcing, you can find a lot of different other terms that people are using as well. You've probably seen this on a lot of different websites. Like, oh my god, not this again. But this is called a reCAPTCHA. You're probably familiar more so with this one. So what you actually have to do when you get a reCAPTCHA is you have to tell them what words are in this box. And that's easy for a human to do because you were taught how to read, hopefully, and you should be able to enter those words in there. So what you're actually doing is helping Google, who owns reCAPTCHA, because they bought it from none other than, again, Louis Von. So he's making major bucks from making systems like this. They bought it from him to digitize a complete library of books that their scanners cannot scan. Their scanners are very good, they're top of the line, but these books and documents that they have are old, they're crumbling, and a scanner can't make out the word. Because optical character recognition is hard for a computer to do. So humans are very good though, because you can tell that says morning, but a computer might not be able to do that so well. So you're actually telling Google what that word is, and you're digitizing a book. Every year they digitize millions of books into their databases, thereby saving these pretty precious resources that otherwise would probably be lost if they were given too much time. Now the new one that they have over there, which most people like, is just a click box. And now when you're doing that, you're creating a machine learning data set. So what kind of data set would that be used for? There's a bunch of machine learning agents online that want to figure out what people are clicking on and where. And to do that, they need to figure out, will a person click on this box? When do I do it? How do they do it? And what exactly part of the screen are they clicking on? So Google's also in their hand with this. And they had a previous game that was called the ESP game, where people would give labels to images, and those labels would be serving as the keywords that you search on today. So without those labels on the images, Google search for images would not give you the results that you have. So this is folded. This is another example of modern human computation. You can just play the video. But I don't need sound, we're just going to watch the video and look around. So what this does is that it gives a protein folding structure problem to people who play this game. It is a game. And you compete on a leaderboard to see who can fold these proteins the best. What these protein folding games really are complicated molecular puzzles that biologists and people in medicine and pharmacy are studying to try and treat diseases. And the really cool thing about folded is that there was a protein in a disease called SHV, which later became known as HIV and later evolved into AIDS. Scientists couldn't solve the protein structure they needed to give a treatment for 30 years, and Folded solved it in 3 weeks. So if that's any indication of how powerful these types of systems are, when you actually have multiple people, hundreds of thousands of people working on one problem, you really get a lot of cool results. And as you can see, it does make it into the game. You have a rank and a score, and it makes the actual complicated process of folding a protein fun. And you can probably just stop the video. And would you mind hitting the next slide button? Cool. So where would this work come from? Since it's on the internet, most likely, your work can come from any source. It could be in America. It could be our office, which we call right here, or Comment's office, which would be over there, which I'll get to in a moment. But your work can come from a variety of different sources, from a variety of different people who will be bringing different perspectives to it and different solutions. Most of these problems would cost millions or billions of dollars to pay an organization to solve, and there's no guarantee that they would actually be able to do it. So we solve that problem by getting our thousands of users, and therefore you get the results you want, probably for not that cost. If anything, it's a fraction, or if it's anything like Duolingo, you're doing it for free. So comment is my version of this type of idea. It's a crowdsourced version of code documentation. There's a lot of code that exists online. I'm sure you've all probably had a coding project at one point that you tried to look at someone's help online and there wasn't actual commenting or English words in the codes. It was more difficult for you to understand. That is the case for a lot of beginners and also intermediates, and very much so in the professional world, because no one wants to take the time because it takes too much time there beyond that. So the general process of comment would be to take projects that are open sourced on GitHub, and open source is a community of code that people put out there for people to look at and maybe improve and provide suggestions for. So it would pull projects from there. It would present code for people who use comment in small snippets that wouldn't be overwhelming for them to comment. Maybe like one method or a couple lines just to describe what that actual code is. And then it would submit those back to that code owner, and they would be able to accept or reject those changes based on what that person said. So why have this? Personally, I am a computer scientist, and that's my other major rather than IMM. So I look at a lot of code every day, and almost none of it has documentation, which is gross for me to look at because my eyes get strained. And sometimes you just want to know what something does. Sometimes you don't want to like read through the code and figure it out. Sometimes I just want to know what this function does and know exactly what its purpose is. So everyone wants it, no one wants to put in the time, so let's divide it up into small snippets that no one would mind doing because it's small and you actually get a better result on the way. So this is like a breakdown of what I think is the benefits to it. There's clear explanations, you get better quality because now you have explanations for everything. It's easy to follow for everyone, including professionals. They waste less time on reading rather than just using and utilizing. There's increased volume of documentation, which is always helpful for people who are learning. And again, there's less resistance to code commenting in general. So these are a couple of just mock-ups for comment right now. There would be this home page where there would be a graph displayed about how much comments are being submitted, how many are rejected. There would be some type of graphic representation to check on how it's doing. You would have friends on comment and you can see their achievements. You would be getting achievements for, say, how many comments you submitted per day, how many of your comments were accepted. You might even get medals or ranks, depending on what those would be. Maybe you get a title because people really like your comments. And you get recommended repositories based on what types of projects you like to read and what you like to comment. And you would give a list of your achievements on your homepage as well. You can go to a profile page, which is what this would look like right now. You get more diagrams of activity, so anything that was like on the homepage that described the whole graph of how the system was doing. You'd have your own personal graph that would also describe how you were doing as an individual on the site, so people can check it out. Which is also probably good for employers. Employers like to look at your GitHub when they're looking into you because they don't really care about your Facebook or Twitter. They could care less. They could care less what your work is. And people usually have a lot of their own projects on GitHub to actually show to employers. So this could be combined in conjunction with GitHub as well to say, hey, I also read all these other projects and know what's going on, and I know how to comment on these languages. So that's that. Any questions? Feel free to tweet me, email me, talk to me after. Thanks for listening.
That's awesome. I'm looking at the